What if I told you that the popularity of social media wouldn't exist without the social exploitation of Black creators? I know, right? A bold statement. But from Nike's Black Lives Matter campaign to the plethora of internet sayings such as, "Put it in reverse, Terry," the impact that African Americans have had on social media and society cannot be denied nor quantified. So why are our main monetary beneficiaries our white counterparts? Hi, my name is Awa Sanneh. I am a 22-year-old college student, influencer, and content creator. Growing up, I remember the ridicule I faced for my deep complexion, hairstyles, and just essentially being the butt of every joke when the lights turned off. Every Black girl here probably remembers that too, because every Black girl here has probably had similar stories, similar experiences, and faced similar ridicule. I can remember being 7 years old and begging for the newest Bratz doll. And they were always in stock because everyone else wanted Barbies. But as a dark-skinned Black girl in the South, I wanted a Bratz doll. The dolls with the eccentric hair, hair extensions, plump lips, and deep skin. I was always positively represented and seen by these dolls. There wasn't some hidden agenda to sell them. Someone just loved my features enough to want them in doll form. All the attributes that were negatively spoken about in my classrooms were always positively highlighted in these dolls. Simultaneously, however, popular songs like "Baby Got Back" included preludes of white women talking about how undesirable big lips and curves were, and how Black women could only ever be one of those rap guys' girlfriends as she was just so Black. The dichotomy of being seen and valued by a doll, while simultaneously hearing Black features constantly spoken about negatively, forced me to question a lot of aspects about myself at a young age. When I was 9, I moved out of the slums of Houston to the predominantly white suburbs of Missouri City, Texas. And it was a culture shock to be uprooted from all of my urban favorites to constantly having my Afrocentric name, food, and hairstyles mocked. Here, I quickly learned that my Black culture was not accepted, let alone my African culture. And because many immigrant parents define their success by their proximity to whiteness, I knew I was not going to get through to my parents. So I bunkered down, shut up, and adapted. And I absolutely hated it. But for some reason, around the 8th grade, things began to change. Comments about my skin tone were no longer just from white kids. Instead, they were in unison with kids that looked like me. My fellow African Americans, in parallel with white kids, chanted, "Light skin is the right skin." And almost overnight, girls began showing up to costume day wearing butt pads, and hundreds of prepubescent teens began bursting their capillaries to participate in what would be known as the Kylie Jenner Lip Challenge. At the same time, there was a sudden rise in the fetishization of Black features, a sudden interest in interracial relationships, and light-skinned babies with blue eyes. So I stopped and asked myself, what changed? Well, unbeknownst to 12-year-old Awa, there was a popular TV show called Keeping Up with the Kardashians. This reality TV show depicted the life of a white Armenian family in the United States and their journey through the swings of Hollywood. The rise of this family created a pop culture shift that dominated the 2010s. When you thought of social media at the time, you thought of the racially ambiguous white woman as seen all over social media and platforms today. But to answer my question, here's what changed. In 2011, Kim Kardashian met her now former husband, Kanye West. And from this point on, we see a shift in presentation not only in the Kardashian family, but in society as well. The Kardashian family began to adopt urban aesthetics, and in doing so, the family and society almost overnight learned Black culture is highly profitable. The family sought out to date Black men, promote their brands using rap music and Black culture, all whilst darkening their skin tone and stealing designs from Black artists and businesses. Black fungibility. That's what all of this is about. Black fungibility is an Afro-pessimistic concept that describes how since an anti-Black singularity known as the mid-Atlantic slave trade, Blackness has become fungible, being seen purely as capitable, to be dehumanized and capitalized again only through legislation and semiotics. Black fungibility is the same reason why the Kardashians dictated the 2010s. Aesthetics that were once frowned upon by the middle class, i.e. long nails, lace fronts, and Fulani braids, were now seen as innovative because they were spearheaded by the Kardashians. In just 10 years, I saw white women go from mocking my box braids to asking me to lay their lace fronts. But in reality, these aesthetics have had years' worth of history in the Latinx and Black communities that have been long fighting for their right to wear their cultural hairstyles in the workplace and in school. It was just in March of 2022 that the US government passed the Crown Act, an act that stops people of color from being discriminated against due to their hair. The Kardashians hopped on every trend possible, and with almost 1 billion followers between the family, the world followed. From mimicking Black bodies through Brazilian butt lifts and deepening their skin tones to interracial dating and grills, there wasn't a single part of Black culture that the Kardashians did not try and monetize. In her Twitter thread analyzing the practice of blackfishing, Wanna Thompson writes, "The ghetto aesthetic has been repackaged and curated to appeal to the masses, calling attention to the new, yet familiar forms of racial commodification through blackfishing." Black fungibility is also the reason why every 20-year-old seems to be cosplaying a Black woman with the sudden interest in bonnets and AAVE appropriation and long nails. It's also the same reason why, although rap and hip-hop dance culture dominate almost every aspect of social media, the faces of these genres on TikTok are white men and women. Because the message is clear. Society loves Black culture. Society loves Black community, so long as it can be repackaged to be digestible enough for a white audience. Okay, so what does any of this have to do with internet stars, especially TikTokers like me that renegade for a living? Well, the renegade dance is a great example, and I believe that we should start there. In 2021, Jalaiah Harmon, at just 14 years old, created the most viral dance that the TikTok app had ever seen. When you've heard of TikTok at the time, you heard about the renegade. It was a dance made by a Black creator to a song made by a Black artist, but skyrocketed the careers of 2 white teenagers by the name of Charli D'Amelio and Addison Rae, simply highlighting how repackaging Blackness is not only marketable, but profitable. And then 20-year-old Addison Rae went on to teach said dance to the Chicago Bulls, the Kardashians, and Jimmy Fallon. But Jalaiah Harmon, the creator of these dances, did not get these opportunities. Why? Anti-Blackness affects every aspect of our world, including social media. That same anti-Blackness dictates which creators have career longevity and the ones that go by in a blip. In January of 2023, Forbes released an eye-opening article about the TikTok algorithm. After years of speculation from marginalized communities about the suppression of their content on the platform, TikTok finally admitted that their employees regularly participate in a practice called heating. Employees at TikTok and ByteDance, according to Forbes, have the ability to handpick specific videos, supercharge their distribution, and ensure a certain number of views are secured. They can decide who does and does not go viral. This can be an issue for many reasons. A notable reason, however, is that the main way for creators to monetize themselves are through brand deals. And the way that brand deals are given is by a social media manager scrolling through their For You page and looking for a creator that is either A, the trendiest, or B, is signed to an agency, or 3, has the ability to look like them and relate to them the most. However, when 71.3% of social media managers are white and only 3.4% of those managers are Black, the white social media managers will actively choose white creators to give these opportunities to, leaving it hard for creators of color to reach the same pillars needed for permanent success in the influencer space. Furthermore, historically and statistically, the creators that will have the startup capital to invest in themselves, to be marketable enough for agencies, or be the trendiest creators to make the trendiest content, are disproportionately white. And these shortcomings don't just stop at brand deals. Let's apply this to brand trips. In 2015, the rise of brand trips was met with vast backlash for brands perpetually only using women of color to fit their racial diversity quota. This quota almost always results in just one woman of color attending these brand trips. Dote is a brand that is notorious for their continual lack of representation when it comes to brand trips. And this is often reflected in their product ranges. When a brand deal is given to a person of color, it can oftentimes be to fit a specific agenda. Tokenism. And the beauty community is a great example of that. It took until 2017 for Rihanna to create Fenty Beauty and become one of the first brands to create the most inclusive foundation ranges, from the fairest of fair to the darkest of darks. But before that, and even to this day, creators like me receive brand deals that honestly did not have us in mind, with makeup shades that are not deep enough for our complexion, all while simultaneously getting paid less than our white peers. We are more often than not an afterthought. It makes sense that these brands don't invite us on their brand trips. It makes sense that they don't have shades that are deep enough for our skin tone. And it also makes sense that they don't have inclusive spaces for POC. They probably weren't thinking about us in the first place. In entertainment, especially as a person of color, you're forced to be digestible enough to be tokenized by a white audience. When Black people come online to talk about their experience being Black, brands run away. And when Black people come online and are wearing braids and streetwear, brands run away. And if Black people come online to talk about the discriminatory practices that they face working with these brands, brands are already a million yards away at the finish line. I can't, in good faith, sit here and tell you that all of this is done with malicious intent. But when any career field lacks fairness and inclusivity, they simultaneously lack the nuances that it takes to address their racial shortcomings. Despite all of these shortcomings, however, the biggest shortcoming of all may fall on the audience. From brands to creators, we all respond to one thing: the algorithm. Your algorithm is working at all times to show you the most highly personalized and targeted ads by your favorite creators, so you stay on the app as long as possible. So here's the tea. Anti-Blackness has grown deep roots in society, but so has Black culture. And we as consumers have been raised with our own internal stigmas, biases, and stereotypes. Although we may think that our biases have zero effect on the world around us, we have to also acknowledge the reality that billions of dollars are being invested in AI to figure out our likes, our wants, our dislikes, and yes, our biases. Your phone's algorithm knows you better than your fellow humans. It also knows when you only interact on a video of a person of color when they fit your racial stereotype, but never for fashion advice, never about music, never about their thoughts on what's going on in the world. Earlier, I mentioned how I had to learn to bunker down, shut up, and adapt. It's taken me 11 years of programming to unlearn the fact that I thought that I needed to change. So I guess my advice to Black and POC creators would be to stick out like a sore thumb. Your individuality matters. If an environment requires you to change your core self, the part of yourself that you can't disregard the environment, not you. I hope this talk enables all of us to really think about how harmful our subconscious actions may be, how we have to go through life actively unlearning the preconceived notions that we have about others. We're all human, and Honestly, that struggle is hard enough. Let's work towards getting through that struggle together. Thank you.